Joe. We're comic books from coast to coast. I'm West Coast Joe. He's East Coast Alex. Today, we're going to be looking at some cool comic books. On my end, we're looking at Tim Vigil, Underground Outlaw Superstar. And what are we looking at over on your end, Alex?
We're looking at Dave Sim, who's also an outlaw, also a superstar, but kind of for different reasons.
Yeah, it's trippy because they both have similar careers in a lot of ways, but they're totally different artists. And both of them having totally different levels of achievements, but both of them being highly regarded.
Yeah, definitely. So we had the poll last week with John Romita Sr. and Gene Colan, and we had a tie. They were equally beloved. So instead of I was thinking about flipping a coin just to show who won that, but I think instead of doing that, I think they both should move on. And since we have, it's not like they don't have to be. It's not like a real sports playoffs thing where it has to be an even amount of winners and losers and stuff that go on and stuff. This is pretty much going to go on pretty much forever because there's so many artists out there that we love that I think it's fine that if they both go on.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. It's just for fun. We're just talking about our favorite artists and see what other people think about it. And if you got an opinion, we'd love to hear about it. And if you're here just to listen to us blabber about comics, we appreciate you stopping by.
Yeah, definitely. So for me to Senior and Gene Colan going on to the next round. I'm really excited to see who some of these next ones on. Like if Frank Quietly, like are they different levels of like Mazzucchelli and Portatio? That's going to be a good
Yeah,
round, good matchup.
like I just think the important takeaway is just like hopefully people are being exposed to like all these rad artists and the different things that they've worked on, and maybe it might
Oh
pique
yeah,
somebody's interest, and they might go down a hole and like try and find out about somebody's career and find out more about the work they've done. And these
oh yeah,
guys have
100%.
like, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's why I really wanted to do this was to show people these amazing artists that it's not about pitting them against each other. It's about if you haven't seen an artist or you really love an artist, you can really get into it, and just to expose people to this fantastic comic book art.
Yeah, these guys have spent entire lifetimes dedicated to creating this stuff, and you see different combinations of people working together, and depending on whom it is at any given time, you can occasionally get extraordinary looking stuff. I mean, who was that guy who in the 70s just took that random panel of comic book art and blew it up and made all those millions of dollars from it or whatever?
Oh
And
yeah, Andy
well,
Warhol.
it's not Warhol, but it's one of his contemporaries. Um,
Oh yeah, Pollock. No,
no,
not
it's not
Pollock.
Pollock either.
I know who you're
But yeah,
talking about. No, I know
I'm
who you're
sure half
talking
the
about.
people listening, if anybody's, whoever's listening to this later, I'm sure they all know who I'm speaking of. But it's just that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
or the
Like that person who created that panel, you know what I mean, was
yeah.
betrayed by society that dude even got away with doing what he did. But beyond that, that just shows like the relevance of art, how something that might be considered completely inane and meaningless, and like that piece of art was probably thrown away like at the end of that book because that thing was like out of a Charlton or something that was pulled from,
What was?
and that picture of the woman swimming in the water and the water overwhelming her. It's a classic comic book panel that this
Uh,
guy
yeah,
took in the 60s, blew up and made, sold for $7 million or whatever.
yeah.
And, it was a very cheaply created piece of art. Back in those days, those guys had to throw all that stuff away. So, you know what I mean? Like, the art of the books are so relevant and you just can't disregard any of it. You know what I mean? So it's just rad to delve into these guys, into their careers, into the amazing art that they've created and just like appreciate them. And a lot of people maybe don't look at it like the way a guy like you and I might because we're artists as well. And we have like a couple inside angles that we could share with people that, might not necessarily, be cued into these kind of things. And it's just fun to talk about.
Oh yeah, definitely. I know that um yeah, I mean comic books is art and writing, so you can't discount one, and discount the other or whatever. Do you remember that debate that Todd McFarlane and Peter David had back in the I think it was either early '90s or late '80s
I
about what was
recall
more
it, but
important?
I don't, you know, what I mean, I don't follow that kind of stuff, but I do vaguely
Right,
recall that
right.
happening when they were arguing back and forth about the industry or whatever.
What's up, Bo? Are you a Dave Sim and or a Tim Vigil fan? Yeah, they had this debate at I want to say it was at Comic Con, San Diego Comic Con, about what was more important, the art or the writing. And obviously, I'm a writing guy because without I mean, I'm a art guy because without the art, you have a book. You don't have a comic book.
Yeah,
You can have a comic book without the writing, but you can't
I want to say
be vice versa.
they're both, you know, pretty important. You know what I mean? I don't
Of
think
course.
one eclipses the other. I think one done really well. I think it's just like anything, you know, like, okay, like I was a musician in the 90s, right? And, you know, so I was in a handful of different bands and I played speed metal. That's what my band played. And I was in a handful
Yeah.
of different bands.
Yeah.
And you could like be, you know, could be writing music that's so good or whatever, right? Like, you know, like whoever you write music with, like my particular band, I wrote our music with our guitar player. So me and the guitar player would write the music, and then we would give it to the rhythm guitar player, and then we would learn it, and then we would give, you know, we would record the tracks, and we would give it to the drummer, and then the drummer could go home with a recording of it, and then figure out what he was going to do, right? And then he'd come back, and we'd all play it, and we'd start practicing the song, right? And it'd be
Yeah.
amazing how different a song could become when you give it to someone who's very competent. Like you can write a really good song and give it to a slightly competent drummer and come back with something that's okay. And you can write a really mediocre song and give it to an amazing drummer and they'll come back and then the song will be so good or whatever. And I think art is like that too. Like you could take
Yeah.
a mediocre artist and put them on an amazing inker and get something amazing. You could take an amazing writer and tag them with an artist that's not so hot and get something insanely good, and vice versa. You could get a really good
Yeah.
artist,
Yeah.
team them
Yeah.
up with a bad writer and get something that's not very good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the only thing with that is I really think that without like if you have an awesome artist and a not very good writer, then the book's not going to last as long as an amazing writer,
Well, yeah,
a mediocre artist.
that's what I just said. Literally, it's like, you know, if you know, can bring the other
Yeah,
up and
right.
one can bring the other down easily. You know, like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
art
yeah,
in
definitely.
All-Star Batman and Robin is insanely good, but people don't like Frank Miller's
Yeah,
writing in
yeah,
that. It's considered insanely bad. You know what I mean? It's either
right.
Frank
Yeah,
Miller's
yeah,
writing is
yeah.
bad, or it's like the way Jim Lee interprets it isn't working or something. You know, which I don't really think that's it.
I I think I have a theory that I think when he gets pressured, I think he gets pressured to do things. They offer him a whole ton of money, and he doesn't put his heart into it, and so you get some garbage.
You mean Frank
Like
Miller?
I bet they offered him a lot of money for all of the RoboCop stuff that he's done, and I
Yeah,
think everything RoboCop that he's ever done is garbage. That's
yeah.
just my own personal
I
opinion.
know. I
Um,
agree. I agree. I agree.
yeah,
All right, we're
but
10 minutes in here, so we're gonna
yeah,
get looking at some comics here, and you know,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
But for
So
sure, I agree
why
hundred
don't you
percent.
start with Tim Vigil?
Okay, so we're looking at this is a book that he's pretty famous for, and this is Faust, and you know, right off the back, you can see his pretty stunning. But we're not going to get into Faust too much because simply put, the work is just too graphic to really look at on
Yeah.
YouTube. And not only that, but a lot of people have covered his work on Faust because that's
Yeah.
really what he's known for. This is sort of like his masterpiece, if you will. And him and this guy, was it Stephen Quinn? I can't remember his name. David Quinn. They've been working on this thing for the last 20 years, you know, like trying to get this thing finished up in a meaningful way. And, you know, it's an amazing book and it's very dark. It's very satanic. It's
Wait,
just,
is that a new Faust? Or is that
well, this is low. It's not new in the sense of it being recently done.
but it's not the 80s Faust.
No, this is not the 80s. This is him
Oh, okay.
continuing the story. This is number 12. I think it went
Oh,
up to
okay.
17 or something like
Oh,
that.
all right. Okay.
But the 80s ones ended at about like I think issue 8 or 9 or something like that
Yeah.
before they
Yep.
continued it on later.
Yeah.
And
I
this
actually don't
is
have
another
any Faust other than, I mean, any Tim Vigil other than this.
this is another piece he did called Energy Organ. And this is wildly outlaw. I mean, we can't even look at one page of this thing
Yeah.
because it is
Yeah.
just brutal. And it's about like a astronaut who's infected with some sort of enzyme that turns him into like some sort of sexual god to where like his sex organs like induce like hypnotic states of like, euphoria around anyone that gets near him. And it just turns into this just monstrous, like Japanese horror, freaking body horror, like
Huh.
sex horror thing,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's
Who,
drawn, man.
who,
If you can look
who's
at it,
that
it's
written
just
by?
wild. What's
Who's
that?
that written by? Who's that written by?
Franz Henkel.
So it's a
And this,
different writer than Faust.
yeah, this is also Rebel Studios, though.
Yeah. I wish
So,
I wish we had
like,
done a
I
little
mean,
bit of research. Like
look at, I
Rebel
mean, that's
Studios is that his studio publication or whatever, I think.
well, I think, yeah, it's where they went after the that original Faust run, hit its wall or whatever, and they opened up to, try and do whatever publications he was trying to put together at the time. But you could just see, like, man, look at the art on this stuff, dude. It's so like Art Williams, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, or Al
Yeah.
Williamson or whatever, you know what I mean? Just like so like Flash Gordon, like, just those dainty like ink lines from way back in
It's
the day.
it's also very European looking.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's like I said, it's this stuff's super, influenced by like Japanese, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
Japanese body horror stuff. And this is clearly just like just some crazy Akira landscape, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just Blade
Yeah.
Runner, H.R.
Yeah.
Giger, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
just pouring back into this sort of impressionistic background of just polluted clouds and whatnot,
Yeah.
which is a lot
Yeah.
of classic 80s, 90s sci-fi trope stuff, happening right there.
I wonder why he never worked for Marvel or DC. Like he could have done an epic thing or a um what was that imprint with Sandman and stuff? Vertigo. He could have done a
Oh,
Vertigo thing.
oh yeah, I think that I think probably the big thing with a guy like Tim Vigil is maybe like the time it takes for him to do something, you know what I mean? Because he
Yeah,
really only
yeah,
tends to
maybe.
do like one book a year, that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But when
I
you do art
actually
like that, it's fine. Like just do one book a year. I don't care. You know what I mean?
yeah,
That's fine with me. You know
yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean, dude?
I
Like
got his brother to contribute to our I had an indie comics calendar for a couple of years and Joe Vigil put contributed to it, which was really awesome because
that's
he's a really
amazing,
awesome
dude.
artist. He's a
Dude,
really
like
awesome artist too.
Joe Vigil's
What's
dog, dude. Like what? It was so good. Like you know what I'm talking about?
yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
No,
Joe Vigil.
no. His
You
dog?
never seen Dog like from Joe Vigil? I think it's either
No.
Dog or Space Dog or something like
Oh,
that.
oh, no.
It's a just like a Space Marines, against like
Oh,
freaking it's kind of like what's the troopers? What is it? Space Troopers or whatever. It's like Space Marines
oh,
versus
Starship
aliens.
Troopers?
Yeah. It's like Starship
Yeah,
Troopers.
Starship
It's
Troopers.
like Space Marines versus aliens versus like alien spider
Yeah,
monsters and stuff like that. And it's
yeah. Well, that's
badass.
cool.
It's so classic, like 80s like canon film kind of comic books. You know what I mean, dude? Like where it's just like all Mohawk army guys on choppers, with machine
Yeah,
guns shooting, robots and spiders and stuff like that.
that's cool.
Badass. But
All right, get into grips.
yeah. This is the one that I believe like, and look, that's a one is real early. This is his very might be his very first work.
What
That people really.
what number is that?
This is number one.
That's the yeah. So I think that is his first published work.
Yeah, and this is Grips. This is Silver Wolf Comics, and that's a long debunked comic company. And this is
Oh,
1986. Back in the day,
yeah,
way back in the day,
yeah,
as we say. And right off the back, you're going to get something special, man. You're just right off the back. You can look at this
Yeah.
first page
Yeah.
and just know you're going to get something special. This guy's got this crazy sort of uh, like Bernie Wrightson, crossed with
Yeah. Yeah.
um, the Thor guy that you like so much. Who am I thinking of right
Simon
now?
Simonson.
Yeah, Simonson, crossed with Simonson kind of thing. His faces have that Simonson kind of broadness to it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then the hair, made up of those like real clean lines and stuff like that, like her hair, or his
Yeah.
hair.
Did he do the inking too
Yeah, he did all the
for
work on
that?
it. Of course, you have my original copy signed by Tim Vigil right here. Boom.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, dude. Like, of course, I have a lot of my comics signed. And then right at the back, we get these fantastic double pagers, like, because that's just, I'm so influenced by this stuff. And I mean,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is all you have to look at right here to just know, you're going to get like the rest of his career is just going to be amazing. This really
Oh yeah.
special
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah. You can tell when a young artist is going to be awesome, even if they're not like co- fully formed in their style, but you can just tell off the bat if you're going to really enjoy their stuff even later on.
I definitely redrew this a handful of times when I saw this,
Yeah.
man. And it was
Oh, did you?
this guy right here I just loved. It was like this teeth flying out of this mouth
Oh
right
yeah.
here, and the
Yeah. That's
blood. You
awesome.
know what I mean? Like that.
So
Just this stuff is fantastic.
wait, go back to the double page spread. Does it bother you that the double page spread is split up like that?
No, because to be honest, like this wasn't like a thing I was used to at the time because I didn't really grow
Right.
up with this being a prevailing idea. You got them from time to time, but it wasn't like anything like it is nowadays where it's often used at least once or more in every single book you get.
Right,
But
right. But the fact that it's split apart, it's
yeah,
not,
it doesn't bother me,
completely
man.
together.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me. I mean, I would have probably liked it to be together a little more, but this is just
Yeah.
I have no problem with that. And then he even handled it well because he put you know there's nothing happening right here in the in the page or whatever. So even if you put it together,
Right.
it's still just that or
Yeah.
whatever. But this is
Yeah.
fantastic
Yeah.
stuff. Grips was really what turned him into everything he is, and I think it was really the love of Grips that people had. Like, look at that. That's Fat Tony from Spawn right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm
that's
sure.
like,
I'm sure that influenced Todd McFarlane like
for
crazy,
sure,
or
dude. That's Tony.
maybe the opposite.
Well, no, this is way before Spawn, dude. Like,
No, before Spawn, but before Hulk, his Hulk and Spider. What year
oh
was
yeah,
that? What year was that?
1986. This is
86.
1986. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. McFarlane is quite a bit before that. I think he's maybe started doing 83, 84, something like that.
Yeah, but isn't he over at DC at that point?
I don't know, but I'm sure Tim Vigil saw some of McFarlane's
Yeah, I'm
stuff.
sure they're both aware of each other's stuff. But yeah, dude,
Yeah,
that totally reminds me of the Tony Twist character or whatever from
yeah,
freaking.
yeah,
And
definitely.
then just shutting it down with another awesome double pager. You know what I mean? Like, he's great, dude. He's influenced my stuff so much. So if you hate how I over double page everything, this is the man you have to blame right here.
I don't think
This
anybody
really
hate. I don't think anybody hates double page spreads.
this reminds me of like the sticker like sheets you give out to people. You know what I mean? Like, it's just
Yeah,
like classic '80s stuff or whatever. Like how you'll put all your logos on it or whatever. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It's so
yeah,
classic. I love that stuff. And then real quick before we head over to your side, um, this is just like a really amazing example of Tim's work. Once again, signed Rebel
yeah.
Studios again.
Rebel must be his own company.
Yeah. And you can even see, like I said, like this guy's very comparable to Captain Marvel. Here's a very early illustration of him, and he has a lightning bolt on his chest. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
So this guy's definitely like a version of he's a version of Shazam Captain Marvel, and he's a vision of the classic Marvel Captain Marvel as well. And right here, dedicated to Jack Kirby.
yeah, yeah.
And this thing is called Omega. And just how much time do you think he had to spend doing this Kirby Crackle? You know what I
Oh,
mean? Like,
definitely,
how much
definitely.
time, dude?
A
Like, I
lot.
can't even get to that, man. I want to get to like something like this, and it's just like impossible. Like, I just like sometimes I'll just like because I'll be going from my head, and then when I'll come back and look at things that I'm trying to draw inspiration from, I'll just be like, nope, I fell short. Like who can ever
Well,
get to this?
you should never compare yourself to another artist. I know it's impossibly hard to do that, but you got to,
You have to. You have
or
to compare
you have to
yourself to
not.
every artist. You have to compare yourself to the greatest artist in the world, and then you have to
Right,
realize that you
but
suck compared to all of
if
them.
if you're trying to attain what, some of the greatest artists in the world are doing, uh, it could be a really it could bring you down. So I don't think anybody should, they should try to attain, as great as you can possibly can, but to compare yourself to somebody else is, I think that's a bad way to do it.
But once again, here we have the double page, and it looks like it's been broken up. Or no, I guess this is not a double. These are two different shots. Okay, I was thinking
Yeah.
this was like two things that went together, but you don't see these things streaming over to one another. But this is all told through full page splashes here at the beginning. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
he's just really delivering some beautiful classic. These armored alien guys here, and this sort of very classic sort of uh, you know princess freaking Amidala, Princess freaking Leia, classic like
Right.
Star Wars stuff. Dale Arden from Flash Gordon kind of thing or whatever, and then just beautiful faces. Like look at the little star reflected in her eye right there. You know what I mean? Like so rad. And
So
then just
is it is it the amount of detail that you think is um why you like Vigil so much?
it is. It's a combination of his violence and the amount of detail he puts in. It's the same thing that you get. Like I say, he's like kind of like the bastard son of Walter Simonson and Bernie Wrightson. And, he's giving you that real nice, like thick, heavy Simonson physicality to the figures, And then you have
Yeah.
that really cool looking Bernie Wrightson style, like anatomy, and violence
Yeah.
taking place. Like,
I think his anatomy is super Frank Frazetta.
well, it definitely is. But like I said, like if you recall when we talked about in other art streams, anytime you're talking Bernie Wrightson, that's what you're really talking about is
Yeah.
Frank Frazetta.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Because Frank
Definitely.
Frazetta is like the key resource of all that,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
because Bernie Wrightson developed that look to his art while working in the studio with Frank Frazetta. And it's
Yeah.
the combination of the action, that level of like anatomical like correctness in your figure and heaviness, and that just touch of violence that you want to put in there. That has to be kind
Yeah.
of like very carefully introduced or whatever, because you don't want to overdo the violence, because you can't take it too far. You don't want like limbs and things flying around like that, but you want to be more like capturing that moment, like right before you feel like something is really going to
Yeah.
happen or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. I think his one of his, if not his strongest parts, is that his three-dimensionality. He
Yeah,
like makes every single panel like three-dimensional and alive. Like all of his, I think that's probably the biggest use using Tim Vigil is everything is alive
yeah,
in his
it's
art.
foreshortening.
And
It's just everything. Like, I mean, we're talking Bernie Wrightson. Like, how Bernie Wrightson is this right here? You know what I mean? Just that
yeah,
looks like
yeah,
Bernie Wrightson
yeah,
drew that. You know what I mean? Like that looks exactly
yeah,
like Bernie. Like that could be a Bernie Wrightson swipe out of House of Mysteries or something for all I know. You know what I mean?
yeah, definitely.
And yeah,
And you can tell he's a horror kind of inspired.
yeah, definitely. He's really good at putting those like that scare like into his emoted eyes or whatever. That feeling of
Yeah,
terror or
yeah,
whatever. Like yeah, and really good at like mixing that to create like heroic prose or whatever. You know what I mean? As opposed to just like it just being representational of terrifying moments. It could be like the moment before something heroic is going to happen, or
right.
that moment where you think all hope is lost, but it isn't, or whatever. And he's really delving all that stuff. Like look at that beautiful teardrop moment right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Oh
like
yeah.
this classic Captain Marvel like theme happening right here with this like little boy, falls down this thing like Batman or whatever, like tumbling into the well. And, he's running away from his family's ancestral home being destroyed by the alien overlords that are coming and invading his house. This sacred crypt beneath the freaking castle, and there's this golden gilded, freaking dude in there, like one of the Disney princesses in a glass coffin, and this boy
Yeah.
sheds a tear, and this freaking, demigod thing just comes pouring out of it like pure electricity. Dude, it's like, it's so cool, man. And then the boy becomes him, and then the boy is encased inside there, like perfectly safe or whatever, as
I
he
wonder.
becomes.
I wonder if Tim Vigil does the plotting and everything, and then the writer just does the scripting.
Yeah, you wonder, right? Because it's like this thing's so designed around, like, him just wanting to draw certain things, it seems like, or whatever.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, but yeah, just, really beautiful stuff. Let's see. Story by Tim Vigil, John Palmer, and David Quinn. So David Quinn from Faust also writing this with
Yeah,
him. And you can
yeah,
tell they're going for some classic Marvel stuff, but they're also working with this John Palmer guy who I'm not familiar with.
yeah.
But we have inks on this one. So inks are by Paul Martin
Oh,
and Tom Britton.
oh,
So
somebody
that's
else synced
odd.
it.
Yeah, but you could kind of see that. Like I could definitely pick out the pages where Tim Vigil didn't ink this. And I was just looking at them as we were going by, and you could just kind of tell, like, let's see.
I bet his pencils are super. I've never seen his original pencils, but I bet his pencils are super tight.
They are. I've seen them before. I've actually seen
Yeah.
them before, and they are
Yeah,
super
where
tight.
the inker really see that's something that we should definitely talk about at some point is like does a super tight penciler does that really mean the inker is not doesn't need to do anything else, and how important is an inker when you have super tight pencils like that?
Well, I think you still have to do well. You still have to do it. You know what I mean? Like you still have to interpret things.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'm a very tight penciler, but you still have to. You still have to like. Yeah.
You know what the crazy thing is? I believe that I heard that Bernie Wrightson went straight to inks, no penciling at all.
That would be wild.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine that?
I can't really believe that stuff. But like say like something like this or whatever, like you still have to, even though it's very tight and everything is there, you still have to come over and make the heavy lines underneath everything. It's intonated, but you still have to go in and do it. And if you don't do it, regardless of how good this is, it will still feel incorrect or like are not finished if you don't come in and do everything right. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
even if it's here perfectly intonated, as much as it is, you still as an inker have to go in and hit everything right. You know what I mean? So even with everything being laid out, it's still highly probable that things could be, misinterpreted or whatever, because it's almost impossible to get every line so definitive that there's no possible ability for a mistake. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
But real quickly, like I promise you, this is not a Tim Vigil page, right? He did not ink
Probably.
it.
Yeah,
No, there's no way. Like just the helmet and all that stuff, and these look how broad these are. You know what I mean?
yeah,
That's
yeah,
not Tim Vigil, dude. Like his stuff
yeah. He
would be,
definitely has thinner
yeah, it has
feathering.
way thinner stuff. Same thing with this. This is not a Tim Vigil page. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
you can look at some of these and kind of tell like that. He didn't ink that for sure. There's no
yeah,
way. Like
yeah,
and there's a handful of them. I mean, this is nice stuff. But you could just tell it's a less skilled hand, and that's why it looks so. That's why all this gets lost. It's all the same
yeah,
line weight. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Tim Vigil is smart enough to come through and put these flames and clouds and smoke in different line weights to allow you a sensibility of the depth of these things that are taking place from here to here. Because
yeah,
there's like
yeah,
in the reality of this image, there's a 13-foot differential area between here to here, or 16 feet or something like that. You know what I mean? But it looks like a flat surface because of the way this guy inked it. But yeah, that's not a Tim Vigil. You know what I mean? This is
yeah,
not a Tim Vigil. And you could just tell, like, that is Tim Vigil. You know what I mean? And this is probably the last one he did right here. You know what I mean? This is
yeah,
probably like he probably like wanted to get this one in the can, because you could just tell all this is his for sure, and then was like, oh, okay, like I'll crush the rest of this stuff with pencils, and then someone else can do this stuff or whatever, you know what I mean? Because it's not as important as
Right.
making sure that, these first pages, and you can tell like these are the ones, like it's these right here up in front are the ones where he's just like, oh, he's just gassed up and ready to go, you know what I mean, dude? Because these are just outrageous. Like how long do you think just doing these clouds back here,
Right. Yeah.
how much time, just in the clouds, like, or her hair, that's that's a lot of time, man. This one right here, like all these, like, nice freaking sweet. I like to do this stuff like in my work. Like I always use the quill pen for these things right here, man, because
Yeah.
that looks so dope when you can do those sweeping things like
2
really
weeks.
nice like that.
Zonia Leonardo says 2 weeks to do that. You're probably right.
That's funny. Sonia Leonardo, it's nice to see you. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for joining us. But yeah, so that's Tim Vigil in a nutshell. Just one of the most amazing outlaw artists of all time. And just if you haven't checked out his work, definitely give it some time, because everything you look at by him is going to be
Yeah.
mouth-wateringly good.
Yeah. It's hard to collect Tim Vigil stuff because it gets expensive like as soon as it's printed.
It really does, dude. It really does.
So the other artist that we're going to look at is Dave Sim, and he is quite a bit different than Tim Vigil. And somebody else that I kind of wonder why they didn't work for Marvel or DC, but really kind of not, because I mean, I believe that he went to Marvel and DC with Cerebus and tried to get them to publish it, and they were like, they didn't want any part of it. So then he chose to publish it himself. And but I mean, his artwork is completely different. But it's a different generation too, because this is Cerebus #1 reprinted. This is in '88, but it was originally came out in 1977, '78. So the year Star Wars came out, Cerebus 1 came out. And
That's crazy to think, right?
yeah, it is crazy. And you can like he is started Cerebus as a Conan clone,
Yeah, I
and
remember.
he just wanted to draw Conan, and his outfit or whatever, he's got the same horned helmet, he's got the same necklace thing around his chest there. So I mean, he's super inspired by Conan, and specifically Barry Windsor Smith. I mean,
Yeah,
is there a more Barry Windsor Smith this than anything else?
I was gonna say that's really where it all comes from, was him just fetishizing the art of Barry Windsor Smith and just loving it so much and wanting to just delve into that. But that led him all kinds of stuff, because I know he's a big fan of oh man, what's his name? The guy who did Flash Gordon back in the day. His name is not coming to
Alex
me right
Toth?
now. Yeah, no,
Alex
it's
Toth?
Alex. It's not Alex Toth. It's Alex Raymond.
Alex Raymond? Oh,
Yeah, Alex
yeah.
Raymond. And I know, like, recently he did a book called The Strange Death of Alex Raymond, where he really delves into the weird circumstances of Alex Raymond's death.
Huh.
And he really goes into like all this very like detective, like methodical, integral, like informational stuff about the line of comic book art. And I mean, like, the representational line about like the differential between like drawing a line and what that line looks like as a printed thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and he's like trying to get to that level of the old 30s and 40s look to the comics, like that Milton Caniff, that Flash Gordon, that Prince Valiant kind of line that they were able to reproduce. But they were using a much more, you know, complicated, and I want to say sophisticated, because even though it was way back then, printing was a much more involved process than it is now. So like they were getting much more, a much better look to their printed material than we're
You think so?
capable of doing. Yeah, definitely with the big presses and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, you can
Offset
definitely still
printing.
get to that to this point, but not very casually. Not casually, you can't. And you really have to know what you're doing. And not a lot of
Yeah.
people, like including myself, feel like, understand the differential between the way something looks on the paper, the way it looks when it's being put into a program and its levels are being set, and the way it looks as a finished thing. It
Right,
changes
right.
so much along the
Well,
way.
yeah, well, the thing is, like, you have the offset printing and you have all of these different kind of printings. But the offset printing, like, you actually, when you have something like a roller or whatever, it's that's actually touching the page, you can have a lot of different like mistakes and stuff. I think that's more prevalent or whatever in older comics.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
But also, like, as the roller or the offset press process goes on, then the image gets blurrier and blurrier. So if you got one of those first few, first few hundred or first few thousand, then you're right on. But then later on, as the printing process goes along, then it kind of wears out a little bit,
Yeah, for
unless
sure.
unless they change the rollings and stuff.
And there's all kinds of all kinds of variables that can come into that. How much black is on the page, and just all kinds of
Yeah,
things like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
But
definitely.
let's go ahead and look
But
at
Dave,
some Dave Sim here while we're talking. You know what I mean? So we get our eyes on some of
yeah,
his stuff.
yeah. I mean, you can like his like Barry Windsor Smith is all over these pages, and the fact that he's a Conan ripoff, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, look at this. The last page is Conan, in the northern mountains or whatever, like that book that the Frost Giant's daughter.
Yeah, and
So
even
I mean, it's such a ripoff. But the intriguing thing is that Dave Sim. Um, his style changes so much. I mean, that's the thing about Tim Vigil. It changes, but it doesn't change quite as much as Dave Sims. Dave Sim really um, goes from a clone of Barry Windsor Smith to his own kind of thing. And I don't really have that many, because that was Cerebus number one, and this would have been Cerebus 11. So this is only ten books after. And I don't know the art, um, at, you know, if he went to art school or anything like that. But like we were saying, that you've got 1,000 bad pages in you. So by this time, he's got all of his bad pages out of him, and his style is kind of setting in. And he
well,
becomes a little bit.
I know that he's
What's
working
that?
with an assistant after a certain amount of time too. There's definitely two guys on
Yeah.
there. One guy's
Well,
doing the backgrounds, and he's doing all the main
yeah.
character stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and I really, I don't know who it is. I don't think it's until the later issues that he starts working with somebody, and that's the thing. I really love the backgrounds in it in in his stuff, and I don't know. Is that cheating?
You know what, dude? I don't think it is. It's all art. Like, you know what? Like, if that's what you
It
want to
is.
do, then do it well. You know what I mean? Like, I think when it's random a lot, it could be jarring. You know what I mean? Like, if it's not something you normally do, and all of a sudden it's just in there, like Todd McFarlane will use that in Spawn, and oftentimes it can be a little jarring because it's just like out of nowhere. Like, but I don't
Yeah,
hate it, and it's like it's cool. I get it. Like, I mean, it looks cool, and to the random person who probably doesn't really, know that much about it, they probably don't even realize it, because the art
yeah,
itself is so detailed. When they slip in just like a whatever they do, they like take a photograph and then they run it through a Xerox or something and turn it into a black and white image or something
yeah,
like that, and control its
yeah,
values, and then paste their drawing on top of that, and then paste that onto the board. It's some kind of process like that or whatever.
yep. His
So
his
I
art
mean,
also becomes way cartoonier. His like he has his aardvark, that's obviously a cartoon. But in this original, this first page, he's trying to make all of his people look, really not real, but Barry Windsor Smith just and less cartoony.
I
But
was gonna say
here
that
he
the
is.
super Barry Windsor Smith, they all have the long Barry Windsor Smith face, like
Right, right. But he's taken his real human characters into the super cartoony realm, which um I don't know if that's good or bad or whatever.
I
I
have
think
to
this
be
is still him. I think this is still him doing the backgrounds though.
I have to be perfectly honest. Like, I don't really know anything about his stuff. Like, I've never bought a single thing. Dave Sim, I only know him from, people talking about his work or whatever. I
Yeah.
know, obviously, of Cerebus, and I've seen it. And, this is the Spawn issue, right here where, he comes and does the
Yeah.
whole thing. I
Yeah.
mean, here's that real famous shot that, Superman or Superman of
Oh yeah.
that where is it right here?
What issue is that again?
I
What issue is that again?
honestly I don't know which issue it is. Oh, it's like 4 or 5 or something like that. It's a handful of them
Oh,
in.
that's a trade paperback you have.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
And we have this famous shot of like because this the Dave Sim episode was all about ownership of maintaining ownership of your
Yeah.
IP or whatever.
Right.
And Spawn is in hell, is being given a tour through hell by Cerberus, and here's all the heroes who've lost their IP, they're all in jail, they're all in
Yeah.
prison, and like
Yeah.
have the slave for some other thing, when they should have never been let go from the people that created them or whatever. And that's about my limit of my knowledge of this character. I mean, I really don't know much about Cerberus. I never was
Yeah.
interested in Dave Sim's work, you know what I mean? Because it's just like not up my alley. It's not
The
superheroes. It's not
the
people
first
breaking through
the
walls.
first 30 the first 30 issues are fantastic. But then like everybody says, he gets into this political kind of stuff. And this is I think this is all where the backgrounds are done by somebody else. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, Dave Sim is such a polarizing artist, not only because of his art, but because of his political views. Or I don't even know if it's a political view. If you're like completely sexist and you think women should stay out of your way and just do as they're told and shut up, which is basically what he says. Then I
Oh
don't
my
I don't
god!
know, huh?
I said, "Oh my god! I didn't know any of that. No, I don't really know anything about. I have
Yeah,
daughters, so
yeah.
I,
He's super. He's super. Like polarizing. Like I said, like droves and droves and droves of people stopped reading his books because he's so such a sexist. Like it's almost like a Nazi type sexist kind of thing. Um,
yeah, I don't enjoy any of that. Like I mean, I like beautiful women just like anybody. I mean, or I
right,
mean, like,
right.
or whatever the beautiful, male form, the beautiful female form, whatever I mean, whoever, whatever your preference is, I don't care. It doesn't mean anything to me. But everything is beautiful and everything should be respected. And
Right. That's the thing.
Dave Sim comes
He
from a
doesn't
woman. You know what
respect.
I mean? Like he has a mom. Like he may have sisters. He's got aunties and grandma. And there's all these roles that a woman plays, and it's so childish and it's so small-minded to just be like to relegate them to the single idea of like just a slave of their sexuality, like, oh, women are
Yeah.
just good for making babies and like cooking dinner. Like,
Yeah.
there's so many facets to a woman. They're a living, breathing creature just like a man. A real woman will stand by your side with a sword and a shield when the wolves come down from the mountains to hunt your family. You know what I mean, dude? Like
Right.
a real woman will stand by you and make you stronger. Woman is an incredible thing. A woman is a flower, that has sword blades for petals. Like it's, what I mean? Like it's a beautiful thing. Like it's so many things, and to relegate it to a simple idea like that, it's simple-minded and childish. But
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
A lot of
So
times
so we're
people do that just to get a reaction from people.
yeah, yeah. But so looking at his art and divesting ourselves away from any kind of political thing that he has. And story wise, I mean, the stories are really good up until, like I said, up until 20 or 30 or something like that. And then it becomes this. It really slows down. Like it's almost like how manga sometimes you can read a manga book and you feel like only a couple of seconds in the real world happened. Just like
Yeah,
there'll be like a fight scene, and the fight scene will just be their eyes or just some speed lines or something throughout the whole book.
Yeah.
It's kind of feels a little bit like that. Only instead of speed lines, it's this beautiful cathedral or something drawn by his assistant or whatever. Anybody who knows his assistant's name or his collaborator's name, please let us know. I can't remember him.
Yeah, I mean, like he's clearly well known for his lavish artwork, and that's basically all I know about it, to be perfectly
Yeah,
honest. And that it
yeah.
was
I would.
started as a Conan clone, but grew into this sort of multi-dimensional, esoteric sort of like study on reality and life, that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. There's quite a few well, not quite a few, but there's a few YouTube channels that have really gone into Dave Sim and Cerebus and stuff. And if you watch those, it's really kind of a tragic kind of story that he has.
Is he not doing it anymore? Is he not the guy anymore that he's?
No, I believe he's all done. He set himself with 100 issues, I think, or 130 issues, something like
I
that.
thought he did like
He's
300. Didn't he do like three? Or maybe I'm thinking
maybe
of
maybe he
Savage.
did maybe he did 300. He definitely set himself a an amount of comics that he wanted to do, and he was going to stop after that, and then he just did. I'm pretty sure.
Well,
I'm not 100% sure. I'm not like the Dave Sim, you know,
that's
aficionado
still a
or
pretty
anything.
fabulous achievement, we'll say. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah. 300 books. I didn't. Eric Larson just passed that, I believe,
Yeah.
with
And I mean,
Savage
and it's
Dragon.
Spawn 2. Spawn 2 just recently passed it not that long ago, right?
Right, but
300.
that's different. That's different because it's not the same creator doing the
It's not.
same book.
It's not. That's what I mean. Like, yeah, it is. It's not the same thing. Like because he just wrote to me as a drawn him. Still, it's cool that they've been around for that long, and hooray for those guys and their achievement for keeping their comic up and alive and in the public eye for so
Yeah.
long. And everybody appreciates that. But there you go,
Yeah.
you guys. That's
Definitely.
our show
Yep.
for today. We got Tim Vigil and we got Dave Sim, and they're both really great artists. If you guys have a preference for one or the other, please let us know. There'll be a poll up later
Yep.
on once the show is posted on YouTube that you can vote on and let us know your opinions. And please get your thoughts and any opinions you have out there on the poll. Let us know anything you guys might think or say about the show today. We appreciate you guys all watching. My name is Joe Leonardo. I'm the creator of Six Lords of Sound. Six Lords of Sound is heavy metal superheroes in space. And if you're interested in getting a issue Six Lords of Sound, you can contact me on my Instagram at Offy World on Instagram. That's AWFULLYWORLD. And that'll take you right to my profile and you can direct message me there. Go ahead, Alex.
I'm Alexander Turbin, and you can check out Random Access. I'm up to 28 as of last month. I'm working on 29 now, and you can get these at patreon.com/Alexander Turbin, or you can go to my website alexanderturbin.com and check it out there, which is probably the better place to get them because I have the collections of Random Access has three rotating stories. One is Cyrene the Cleric, one is Queller, and the third one is just different, either Symborgs or Death Knights or whatever. So I collect the stories into different comic books, like I said, Cyrene the Cleric or Queller. So yeah, you can check these out at alexanderturbin.com. And this month is H.P. Lovecraft and Robert E. Howard as the main characters of their own story. And it's basically what if they were the main characters and their creations were real, and they're trying to raise Edgar Allan Poe, who is their favorite author, from the dead. And they're trying to be thwarted by I can't remember what his name, but he's the writer of the Necronomicon. And so I have a bunch of different characters and creations of Robert E. Howard and stuff like that. So it's a nice little sneak peek into 1900s horror.
Super cool looking stuff. It's going to be like really cool things coming down the pipeline from Random Access Comics. Once again, I'm Joe Leonardo, West Coast Joe. He's Alexander Turbin, East Coast Alex. This is West Coast, East Coast comic books from coast to coast. Go ahead and tell them what happens here at the very end of all of our shows, Alex.
Well, thanks for watching. And if you're new to the channel or whatever, please consider subscribing, hitting the
Oh, wait.
notification bell.
Before you go, I just want to say thank you to everyone that tuned in today. I know we have comic book creators that come
Yep.
and watch the show. If you left a comment and we missed it and we didn't comment on it, we apologize for that. And we just want to say thank you to everybody that leaves comments. Thank you to everybody that watches. Thank you to all the creators that come out and hang out and watch the show with us and do the show with us. We really appreciate your time. Okay, go ahead and finish, Alex. I'm sorry.
No, that's cool. That's cool. The biggest thing that I like is the comments from artists and writers, or even if you're not an artist or writer, you're still part of the community, and I really appreciate that. But I love the comments from all of you guys. We do this because we love comic books, and we want to spread the love of the comic book, um, uh, whatever, the world of comic books, and the world of art. And so, thanks for watching, and keep on creating.